Grandmama, it's me, Anastasia.
Oh man, I haven't watched that movie in a long time.
I need to rewatch that film.
Books. 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 Books.
Hello and welcome to Didn't Read It, the podcast that is, quite frankly, baffled.
Oh, yeah.
I am your host, Grace Todd, and with me this week is a beloved bestie of the pod,
Oh my god.
Lee.
Oh my god.
Hi.
Thank you. Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good.
I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, how you doing?
Well,
Never mind. Moving on.
here's the thing.
Okay.
The world
Yes.
stuff
Horrors.
it just keeps happening.
Yeah.
The editor of The Atlantic was
What was that about?
in a group chat where they were planning war crimes,
and
maybe.
he left the group chat.
Who leaves the group chat?
Bro, that's your career.
Buddy.
Well, anyway, never mind.
Stay in the group chat.
We know why he left the group chat.
I mean, that's fair. Yeah.
Anyway.
Also, like, bird flu keeps getting worse. It's just,
Yeah.
it's, and for,
No, nothing.
don't worry about it.
Whoa. That's never happened before.
Have you been licking chickens again?
Yes.
If I see one more video of someone holding a very sick chicken like next to their face in their house, being like, my chicken is sick and I don't know, it's like give
it mouth to mouth. Obviously.
Obviously.
Does avian flu, does it cross over to humans?
It has been increasingly.
Okay. Cool.
So far it's been in isolated
Yay.
cases, but like
Not for long. Woo!
so, you know, and all of, on top of all of that, for me personally, I've had to take an unanticipated fiver from all of my favorite substances.
Yeah.
So,
You're raw dogging it.
I'm raw dogging reality, and
Yeah.
there's so much reality to raw dog.
Yeah. There sure is, friend.
And I don't
Welcome.
care for it. And, with this podcast, I never quite know how to like strike the balance between doing stuff that feels like both timely and timeless, and like literature that's like really challenging and digs deep, and that, can kind of make us feel seen by the past and allows us to like process some of these really difficult things. And stuff that's a little more like upbeat and escapist and
You strike a good balance.
fun.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And so I'm always trying to kind of like, I never know what people want. You know what I mean? In the moment.
Who does?
Yeah. And so when I am a little beside myself, literarily, I come back to Shirley Jackson.
Yeah. Cool. Yay.
Shirley Jackson is like one of my like total all-time like comfort reads.
Yeah.
She is a writer who makes like me particularly feel very, very seen.
Yeah. Awesome.
I feel a real kinship with her for
Oh,
reasons.
you two would get along.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
That's so flattering.
From not much that I know about her, because the movie was not helpful. I just believe that you two would get along great.
This is one of the nicest things anybody has ever
Yeah.
said to me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna rub that one into my ego.
Do it.
Thank you.
Do it.
So I've brought you a Shirley Jackson story
Yay.
that I feel might make everyone listening feel a little seen.
Thanks, Shirley.
In these trying times.
Yeah.
And
Trials and tribulations.
It's actually so short that I'm going to read it to you in its entirety.
Cool. I love that. I love when you reach it.
And then we will chat about it.
I need a little blanket and a nightcap. Not the drink, like a nightcap on my head.
And like a
And
candle in a little
slippers.
holder.
Yeah. And I go, who goes there?
There's a trick or treat blanket behind you.
Oh. Let me not hit the mic stand over while I put this blanket on. You gotta get cozy for the story.
All right, Lee's cozied in for story time.
Oh, this is a very gory blanket.
Yeah, it's a Trick or Treat the horror movie.
Oh.
Not Trick or...
There's an eyeball.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite horror films. All right.
I'm cozy.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
So this story is called Colloquy.
How do you spell that?
Colloquy.
Are you going to define it while reading the story, or are we just supposed to know what it is?
How about I define it afterwards?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So,
I'm ready.
Colloquy. The doctor was competent looking and respectable. Mrs. Arnold felt vaguely comforted by his appearance, and her agitation lessened a little. She knew that he noticed her hand shaking when she leaned forward for him to light her cigarette, and she smiled apologetically, but he looked back at her seriously. "You seem to be upset," he said gravely. "I'm very much upset," Mrs. Arnold said. She tried to talk slowly and intelligently. "That's one reason I came to you instead of going to Dr. Murphy. Our regular doctor, that is." The doctor frowned slightly. "My husband," Mrs. Arnold went on. "I don't want him to know that I'm worried, and Dr. Murphy would probably feel it was necessary to tell him." The doctor nodded, not committing himself, Mrs. Arnold noted. "What seems to be the trouble?" Mrs. Arnold took a deep breath. "Doctor," she said, "how do people tell if they're going crazy?" The doctor looked up. "Isn't that silly?" Mrs. Arnold said. "I hadn't meant to say it like that. It's hard enough to explain anyway without making it so dramatic." "Insanity is more complicated than you think," the doctor said. "I know it's complicated," Mrs. Arnold said. "That's the only thing I'm really sure of. Insanity is one of the things I mean." "I beg your pardon?" "That's my trouble, doctor." Mrs. Arnold sat back and took her gloves out from under her pocketbook and put them carefully on top. Then she took them and put them underneath the pocketbook again. "Suppose you just tell me about it," the doctor said. Mrs. Arnold sighed. "Everyone else seems to understand," she said, "and I don't. Look." She leaned forward and gestured with one hand while she spoke. "I don't understand the way people live. It all used to be so simple. When I was a little girl, I used to live in a world where a lot of other people lived too, and they all lived together, and things went along like that, with no fuss." She looked at the doctor. He was frowning again, and Mrs. Arnold went on, her voice rising slightly. "Look, yesterday morning, my husband stopped on his way to his office to buy a paper. He always buys the Times, and he always buys it from the same dealer. And yesterday, the dealer didn't have a Times for my husband, and last night, when he came home for dinner, he said the fish was burned and the dessert was too sweet, and he sat around all evening talking to himself." "He could have tried to get it at another dealer," the doctor said. "Very often dealers downtown have papers later than local dealers." "No," Mrs. Arnold said, slowly and distinctly. "I guess I'd better start over. When I was a little girl," she said. Then she stopped. "Look," she said. "Did there used to be words like psychosomatic medicine, or international cartels, or bureaucratic centralization?" "Well," the doctor began. "What do they mean?" Mrs. Arnold insisted. "In a period of international crisis," the doctor said gently, "when you find, for instance, cultural patterns rapidly disintegrating—" "International crisis," Mrs. Arnold said. "Patterns." She began to cry quietly. He said the man had no right not to save him at times, she said hysterically, fumbling in her pocket for a handkerchief. And he started talking about social planning on the local level, and surtax net income, and geopolitical concepts, and deflationary inflation. Mrs. Arnold's voice rose to a wail. He really said deflationary inflation. Mrs. Arnold, the doctor said, coming around the desk. We're not going to help things any this way. What is going to help? Mrs. Arnold said. Is everyone really crazy but me? Mrs. Arnold, the doctor said severely, I want you to get hold of yourself. In a disoriented world like ours today, alienation from reality frequently... Disoriented, Mrs. Arnold said. She stood up. Alienation, she said. Reality. Before the doctor could stop her, she walked to the door and opened it. Reality, she said, and went out. The end.
Yeah.
I think about this story not infrequently.
You had this one in the chamber.
I think not infrequently about the line of he really said deflationary inflation.
Yeah. This is like one of the most relatable things I've ever heard.
So that is colloquy.
Colloquy.
And colloquy is a word that means at its most basic just conversation. So it is related to the word colloquial.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But its sort of secondary meaning is like more formal, kind of important conversation. So like theological or legal or, you know.
And it means that, this is going to be kind of a confusing question. It means that kind of unironically?
Yes.
Rather than like overinflated or like self-important language?
Correct.
Okay.
That is my understanding.
Okay.
It's not a word that I have seen used much outside of like oldie-timey literature.
Colloquy.
I think that the title of the story, I think that in the context of being the title of the story, it's being used tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
But I think generally when it's being used in the wild, its colloquial usage,
Moo.
I think is usually not sort of sarcastic.
Okay. Genuine.
And so that is colloquy.
That's a good one.
And I think this is a feeling that we have all had.
This is like every meme I've seen in the past like 5 years. It's like, sorry I didn't respond to your email. My brain was designed for gathering nuts in the forest.
Deflationary inflation.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously, like, in the content, like, there are some things in the story that can be sort of teased out, especially from the time in which it was written, right? Like, I think it is important and worth noting that she goes to see this doctor because her regular doctor would turn around and tell her husband everything.
Yeah.
Which is really f***ed up.
And what time was it written?
So this collection originally came out, I think, in 1949.
Okay.
And, you know, The Lottery was like the story that made her like big famous. And
Yeah.
I think this was one of her first collections of short stories.
After that? Oh, no, with that. Yeah, same time.
Well, it was the Lottery was originally published in the New Yorker.
Okie dokie.
And that was what made her that propelled her to big fame.
Big time.
It was specifically the publication in the New Yorker because there were people, and this is probably a little bit apocryphal, but there were people who wrote into the New Yorker seemingly confused about whether or not the lottery was real.
Ew. I love those kinds of things.
And, you know, late 1940s, early 1950s, your husband, your doctor and your husband could absolutely conspire to ruin your life or have you put away or have you lobotomized or...
But But in the context of the time, it's also this time of like such great societal change and like the weaving of these new cultural narratives, like post-war.
Yeah.
And like, forget all that. Like, what do we want to be going forward? What do we want to say? Like, how do we want to present ourselves? It was just such a time of rewriting like the larger societal narrative. Am I making sense?
Yeah, no, you are. Well, and I was, yes, and it's also like right on the precipice of the Red Scare. Right, where we are gearing up to be very concerned about the communist threat. And and there's very much this idea of like, rah rah America, number go up forever.
Yeah, it's the time of like American myth making.
Yeah, very much so. And I think then as now, you know, and I've said this before on the show, but like, it is easy to forget the failed dissenting voices of the past, right? Like we tend to kind of knee-jerk do this thing where whichever side won or whichever side was dominant is the one we remember. And you kind of get this thing where it's like, no one thought we should free the slaves. And you're like, no, people were trying to abolish slavery from like the moment slavery existed. They just, there just weren't enough of them. Yeah. And they weren't powerful enough. Yeah. Similarly, I know for a fact that there were a lot of people, some of whom were writers that we've covered before on the show, who at this juncture of American myth-making felt very alienated by it and felt very anxious about the direction things were heading, and who saw the Red Scare coming. Yeah. And again, it's too easy to forget about them because they didn't
have social media.
And I think, you know, especially for sort of intellectuals and leftists coming out of the Second World War, I think a lot of them felt very lonely. And then you take that, and on top of it, add the complications of being an intellectual leftist woman in a sort of environment of men who are still deeply misogynistic, even when they pretend that they aren't. And you're gonna spend a lot of time being like, am I crazy?
Crazy? Yeah.
Am I taking crazy pills?
Were they pretending that they weren't?
I mean, they liked to pretend that they weren't, right? Like, if you look, I try not to be too hard on Stanley Hyman because his children have made it fairly obvious that they don't like it when people shit on their dad too much, which is totally fair.
That's Shirley Jackson's husband.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hyman. But like, if you had asked him, if you had sat him down and been like, Stanley, do you respect and love and support your wife? I'm sure he would have been like, of course I do. Yeah. But the way that he behaved toward her was not...
Didn't match up.
It did not always match. And it certainly didn't... I mean, it certainly didn't match when it came to pulling his weight around the house. No. You know, if you think you treat women equally, but you also think that it is one person's job to do all of the housework, then you don't.
And also make all the money for the house, because that's what Shirley Jackson did.
Yes, she was the breadwinner at a certain point.
She kind of was the house.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she still did all of the things.
Yeah. What did he do?
He was a professor. He fucked a lot of his students.
Yeah. That's what he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He spent years and years and years and years writing his magnum opus book that then kind of flopped.
Well,
it's considered like a very important work of criticism, but it didn't sell very well, as behemoth books of criticism tend to do.
Criticism of what?
Literary criticism.
Okay.
Yeah, like the field.
Okay.
Anyway, this isn't about Stanley.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
But you know, I think this, as with all like great pieces of short fiction, this is one of those. This has like a note of emotional truth that transcends the context in which it was written.
Yeah.
And I think it is a feeling that a lot of people are having very acutely, like, right now. Like, with the there's a journalist I really admire named Ed Zitron, who writes about AI and like the companies behind it, and he has been very carefully, very thoroughly, essentially kind of proving over and over and over again that the emperor has no clothes, that financially these generative AI companies have no path to profitability, and that there's just no way they're going to do any of the things that they say they're going to do.
I hope not.
And he has written, especially lately in the last, 6 months or so, there's been this interesting little tonal shift in his articles, because he started sort of self-reflectively also writing about what a weird position it puts him in to be constantly being like, these are numbers, right? Like, these are hard and fast numbers that I am citing. I am going through like financial documents.
Yeah.
I am just telling you the facts.
Yeah.
And there are all of these journalists who are not, I guess, doing any legwork, and who don't want to do any legwork, and who are writing articles being like, AI is up and these numbers are going to go up forever.
Like, how many fucking times have we seen this? Like, it's just wild. It's just, so many things lately feel like a prank.
Well, I think the direction that American society has gone in the last, honestly, like 50 years is that just everything is one big grift.
Yeah.
It's just grifts all the way down.
It truly is.
And to acknowledge that, to like look at these things and be like, why? Why is this happening this way? Surely there's no need for this. Surely, like, we can tell that billions of dollars being set on fire by these AI companies is objectively bad and very concerning, because it's a bubble that's going to pop.
Maybe this is the bubble that won't pop.
Oh my God, I never thought of it that way.
Did you ever think that this is the bubble that will never burst?
Inflationary deflation.
Yeah. This is the perma bubble. All the other bubbles pop, but not this one.
You're right.
Yeah.
That's true.
You probably just never thought of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we should keep mass producing plastic bullshit forever too. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really makes like 100 years. Wasn't like about 100 years ago, around the time of like Dadaism and like absurdism, and
yeah,
is that around the time? It just
feels
1925.
That sounds about right.
It all makes a lot of sense. I remember the first time I learned about Dada, like in high school, I was just like, I guess it's funny, but like, why? And now God bless Gen Z. I mean, that's like all of their realities and senses of humor, and I love them for it. They take nothing seriously.
No.
I love it.
How can you?
No.
Because you just wind up being this poor woman. You just wind up being Mrs. Arnold.
Yeah.
In the doctor's office.
She's just like, I feel like that's what a lot of millennials, not to turn it into a generational conversation, but like that's what a lot of millennials are doing, are like, am I insane? And a lot of like Gen Zers are just like, oh, we're all insane.
They're just repeating buzzwords.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that's the thing I like about this story. And, it's so short, but like the thing I like about this story is that she walks out at the end.
Yeah.
Like she's
like, oh no,
leaves.
It's here too.
The institution has failed her, and she departs from it. Mm-hmm. And it could have been a longer, darker story, right?
It could have been much darker, yeah.
Like there could have been a version of this story, I think a less successful version of the story, but there could have been a version of the story that ended with her medicated or
institutionalized.
Yeah. And she realizes in the span of, what would amount to a 2 or 3 minute conversation, she realizes that this man is useless to her.
Just like, oh, he's one of them.
and she just drifts away.
Yeah.
And, you know, it does kind of seem like maybe her wiring has been, at least temporarily, short-circuited.
Yeah.
When she drifts away going, disoriented, alienation, reality.
Yeah.
But I have faith in Mrs. Arnold's capacity to recover.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think partly this just felt like a good time to remind ourselves and each other that, like, yes, it is lonely being in Mrs. Arnold's position. It is hard being like, am I crazy? Like, what the fuck is going on? What is wrong with you people? Why is this happening?
Yeah.
But it's important,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, you hang in there.
Yeah. I actually just, let's see, when I was convincing myself that I wasn't spending an hour on the internet this morning, right upon first waking up, but then I proceeded to spend an hour on the internet right upon first waking up, which happens every single day. However, I did catch a clip of a very useful conversation. It was actually the rapper Earl Sweatshirt and his mother, who is a poet and a journalist. From South Africa. But they were talking about the feelings of apathy and alienation, and how it's very easy and understandable and normal to fall into that because everything is so overwhelming, and you feel like, you feel the, am I crazy?
Yeah.
And you answer yes, and you say there's nothing I can do, and and it was just this lovely, very empathetic conversation. But what follows from that is the realization that apathy is a tool of oppression, actually.
Yeah.
And the disorientation and isolation are all tools like to keep us from becoming engaged and being connected to each other and working together and, exercising our class power and so on and so forth. It was a great conversation. Just this brief little clip that is...
Yeah.
That same kind of thought is packed into this tiny little story.
Well, and I think it's very important that the thing that sets off Mr. Arnold, which appears to have in turn set off Mrs. Arnold, or is a contributing factor, but the thing that sets off Mr. Arnold is that his newspaper seller didn't save him a copy of the Times.
Yeah.
And he's been buying a newspaper from this man every day for years and years and years. It's that little bit of isolation. It's that lack of communal. Your newspaper seller saving you a copy of the Times is the kind of thing that happens when you are in a community where people know you and care to know you and know who you are and recognize that you come in every day and buy the same newspaper.
Yeah.
And that is the kind of thing that is being lost. And that is what Mr. Arnold is reacting to, is that little wedge of isolation.
Yeah.
That is being driven into his daily routine. And the doctor, very importantly, can't even recognize that is what Mrs. Arnold is trying to say.
Yeah.
He just says, go to a different store. Well, it's not about going to a different store.
Yeah.
It's about why can't I have a relationship with this store?
Well, to you, your customers are just a part of your world. But to your customers, your newspaper stand is their world. Whatever they say about pets, I don't know. So she's empathizing with her husband. She's not just kind of bemoaning that made her husband a dick to her. Like she's kind of she's understanding where he's coming from.
Well, she says, it's at the end when she begins to cry, and she says, he said the man had no right not to save him at times. And he started talking about social planning on the local level and surtax net income and geopolitical concepts and deflationary inflation.
What was that social planning bit? What's that?
Social planning on the local level. So I think the implication in part is like Mr. Arnold is upset about his newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
And I am not saying that Mr. Arnold is not perhaps blowing the newspaper situation a little out of proportion.
Sure.
But it has made him feel isolated.
Yeah.
And he is reacting by sort of calling up all of these really heady concepts to explain why this has happened, this wrong has happened.
Yeah.
Or to kind of comfort himself. And I think, social planning on the local level, I am pretty sure is meant to be like community plan,
okay.
like design and,
Okay. That set my alarm bells off a little bit.
What did you?
I don't know. It sounded eugenics-y.
Social planning is a process where policymakers, planners, and community members collaborate to address social issues and improve community conditions through data-driven approaches, policies, programs, and services.
Okay.
There you go. For once, your eugenics radar is turned up a little too high.
I still don't think so, but I stand by it. But, yeah.
But part of what the story is getting at is that it's a stack-on effect, right? Because what she says is, like, he goes to get his paper and he can't get his paper, which makes him feel alien, isolated, basically. And then he comes home and everything is wrong. Like, it's thrown off.
Yeah.
It's thrown off his whole day. It's thrown off his whole existence, which in turn is throwing off her existence, which is the way that things were for so long. I mean, we talked about this a little bit in our Dracula episode. Like, one of the things with Nosferatu, like 1922, is that one of the things they are kind of harping on is anything that happens to men is happening at a single degree of remove to their wives, because because that's how patriarchy works.
Yeah.
Your husband's mood is your mood.
Yeah.
Like it or fucking not.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
Which then, in the classical Christian patriarchal model trickles down to the children, and then that's everybody's. But that's how everyone feels now.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so the ripple effect is that it's also ruined her day. And, well, did she feel crazy like before all of this happened, do we think? Or it's been a slow buildup, I assume?
Yeah.
One assumes.
I think it's more than this. She's using this as an example. Because she starts with, when I was a little girl.
Right. I forgot about that part.
Everyone, and there was no fuss. This is what she says.
Yeah. That's actually, that's such a common thing that I think everyone does, is like, when we're like, oh, life used to be so simple, and everyone just thinks about the specific period when they were a child.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And they're like, life was so easy then in the 80s or 70s or 60s or 50s. And it's like, yeah, because you were 5.
Yeah.
Because your brain was like this big and your mommy did everything for you.
That is true. But it's also fairly undeniable that, like, communities looked a lot different in, say, 1925 than they did in 1949.
Yeah.
It is easy and reductive and also not entirely inaccurate to look back at 1945 or 1949 and be like, it was a little simpler.
Sure.
Things were a little simpler.
Very true.
Conspiracy theories were not being spread at the speed of light as fact.
On the presidential level.
It wasn't better.
Yeah.
And I want to be very clear that I'm not saying it was better. You will never catch us on this podcast being like, back in the good old days, because the racial relations in the United States and in the UK in the 1940s were fucking horrific. And people were getting murdered all the time. It was not better, but it was objectively, logistically more simple.
More societally, well, not society.
Communities
were more cohesive.
Communities were smaller.
Yeah.
Communities were much smaller.
Yeah.
And more intimate, which was, on the one hand, how you get people overly romanticizing the period and being like, gosh, we were all there for, look at, like, to hop across the pond, look at, like, early seasons of Call the Midwife, and it's like, we were all there for each other.
Yeah.
it is also that level of intimacy is also what allowed for things like lynchings, because that is when you have
your friends are doing it.
Yes. When you have a community that is that tightly knit and that small, you get rumors and hearsay and racial animus that turns fatal on a dime.
Mm-hmm.
Because a small community doesn't mean a good community.
No.
Or a community full of people with good values.
But it was small.
It was small.
Yeah. And it was simple. Blur. Just thinking about like the outward ripples. So it seems like Shirley Jackson in this story like was definitely remarking on, you know, the gender roles within a marriage. And like you said earlier, like the husband's mood dictates the household's mood and everything. And there's a lot that we can like bring into today. You know, there's a lot in this story that's relatable about today. Do you find the gender commentary of it to still be relevant?
Yeah, I mean, you know, and again, there's the note that she goes to see this doctor because she can't see her regular doctor, because if she sees her regular doctor,
right,
her regular doctor will tell her husband what she was doing.
Well, we don't have men making decisions for women's bodies anymore, so that's been solved. So I don't really know why you're bringing this up to me. So, yeah.
There's not a single man in this country who would want to like take away my human rights. No fault divorce.
No. Are they taking away no fault divorce?
They'd like to.
Oh.
They're actively planning on trying to.
Cool.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Cool. Okay.
But no, I think honestly, the gender element of it is one of the reasons that it does resonate for me so strongly. I mean, and it's very frustrating, and I'm not necessarily defending all of them, but the number of women that you see online who are posting about the fact that their husbands have turned into like right-wing gremlins, and that these were dudes who were like, you know, like kind of conservative, but not like scary conservative.
Yeah.
And they've become scary conservative and like why aren't you a trad wife kind of men.
Yeah.
And I think that those women...
JRE is a gateway podcast.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
There's a lot to answer for.
Didn't mean to derail.
But I think that this is a sensation that I think a lot of women are having and have had. I mean, without giving too much away about what my day job is, because I still have to have one of those, unless any of the listeners out there would like to send me just oodles of cash.
Patronage.
I sat in a meeting in my day job leading up to the inauguration, and I had printed out Project 2025 and was like, here are all the parts of Project 2025 that are relevant to the things that we do. What is our plan? And my interpersonally very nice, but sort of financial bro boss kind of gave us the like, well, we just don't know what they're gonna do. And I was like, well, we do.
But actually, we do know.
They wrote it down. I printed it out.
It's right here. I have copies for everyone. I highlighted parts of it.
I genuinely annotated it.
I get sticky notes and everything.
It's like, no, we know exactly what they're going to do. They told us.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, they're not. They were like, that's just like a wish list. They're probably not going to like accomplish everything.
The administration didn't write that. That was a think tank that wrote that.
That they're not going to be able to do all of it, because that just wouldn't make good economic sense. If they did everything that they said they were going to do in Project 2025, that would crater the economy, and they wouldn't want to crater the economy. And I was like,
it's not about the economy.
But they wrote it down. They wrote down what they were going to do, and they put it on the internet for us as a PDF. Even if they don't accomplish it all, we can at least plan around what they might do because
Yeah.
they told us they were going to. And I was told that we were going to maintain a wait and see approach.
Yeah.
And we waited.
And
And
now
boy,
we
have
are
we seen!
now we have seen. And we continue to see.
And then I walked out of that meeting saying, disoriented, alienation, reality.
Deflationary inflation. Is that a real thing?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't
Probably.
I don't understand that shit.
What is going to help, Mrs. Arnold said. Is everyone really crazy but me?
It's hard to comment on the story because it just feels so, it's just so relatable. All I can say is just like, yep.
And it's so clean. Like, there's
Yeah.
not an ounce of fat on this story.
No.
She really was one of the best to ever do it.
Yeah.
Bless. I love her so much, Shirley Jackson.
And it's so funny, but it also makes me tired.
Yeah, it makes me tired and a little sad.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I would like to point out is that one of the tragedies of Shirley Jackson's life was that she was raised in an environment and by people who taught her very, very early to be self-loathing. And also it seems kind of taught her to be competitive with other women. And a lot of her work really deftly illustrates the ways in which women undermine and really damage each other.
Oh, 100%.
And it's beautiful and it's beautifully rendered, but I do think that if nothing else, the ladies and gentlethems,
Yes. Mwah.
the queers, the trans kids, the non-binary kids have all gotten better. Not great. We still have work to do, but we have gotten better at being there for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And what Mrs. Arnold needed was a solid fucking group chat.
Yeah. I think about this all the time, and it's because I interact with a lot of younger people, much younger than me. And, and we go through, there's the very trendiness of like Y2K fashion and everything right now. And I'm always just like, I lived through it.
Do not cite the old magic to me, witch. I was there when it was written.
I'm like, look, I understand the aesthetics are so fun and like cutesy and like, yay, pink and like, yeah, like I love it. I love it too. And I'm like, but you don't know what it was like. Like I genuinely think about this a lot because it's a lot that I think, us and our friends have had to unlearn from being, it might not have been something that, like you just said, Shirley Jackson's family ingrained into her, but just society at large in the being a teen girl in like the early 2000s. It was, I suppose the phrase now is pick me.
Oh,
but
God.
We were all pick me's.
Across the board.
Yeah. And all you did, like,
I'm not like other girls.
yeah. And it's just shitting on other girls and other women. And it's fascinating now to look back, but like just to go back to that mindset is so I'm losing my train of thought because I'm starting to panic. Like it was awful. And now it's
you were either on one end of the cultural spectrum railing at like quote unquote like what we would now call like basic girls for being like sluts.
Yeah.
Or you were on the other end railing on alternative girls.
Yeah.
For being a different kind of slut.
Yeah. All slut shaming, all body shaming, in like intellectual shaming. Like it all just sucked. It just sucked.
Yeah.
Like it just was awful. And like no one was happy. No one was happy with each other or their friends or themselves. It was bleh.
You can refer to the hit documentary Mean Girls.
Yeah.
For more detail.
Yeah.
What this story doesn't do, but leaves the door open for, is give Mrs. Arnold a co-conspirator.
Everyone else mentioned in the story is a man.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the story doesn't preclude the possibility of Mrs. Arnold finding someone else who understands.
Maybe in the waiting room when she wanders out in a daze.
Maybe there'll be another woman there saying,
Alienation.
Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Cryptocurrency.
Yeah. Sports betting.
Generative AI.
Yeah.
Deflationary inflation.
You got to get your drop shipping business up, bro.
Oh my God.
I hope that for her.
Hustle mindset.
Oh,
Rise and grind.
rise and grind. What is the new thing? The guy who, this is like brand new.
The
with
guy
the
sticking his face in the
in
bottled water?
In the Saratoga?
Yes.
Yeah, and the banana peel.
It's a waste of good mineral water.
Yeah.
I like mineral water. This is one of my
I'm
most
drinking some right now.
one of my most executable habits.
What is that? What do you mean by that?
In that it would lead me to be guillotined when we finally rise up against the rich as we should.
Well,
Even though I am not rich, is that I have a real affinity for glass bottles of mineral water.
they're delicious.
They're so good.
Yeah.
They're so good.
Have you tried dunking your face in them?
No, because then I don't want to drink water that has had my face in it.
You don't drink it.
Well, I know.
You just pour it out.
I can't afford to waste that much.
I wonder what that guy does for work. Is that his work? Is just making
Probably.
rage bait?
Probably.
Yeah.
Also, he's probably got rich parents or something.
Yeah.
Because I want to say at the end of that video, he tries to do like business speak.
Ah.
And it's very obvious that
sounds
he
like
doesn't
that
know what
short
he's doing.
He's like, my paper guy forgot to save me a paper.
I hate that
Social planning.
I hate that I have seen not just this video, but enough videos riffing on it that I knew that it was a trend. I hate that for myself. I'm sad now.
Never watched the video. I literally just saw memes about it. And I was like, what the fuck is this about? And then I saw enough memes about it that I was like, okay, I think I get it. I would like to be on the internet less.
I really need to be on the internet less, but as mentioned, I've been raw dogging reality and it's done a real number on my attention span.
Yeah.
Turns out if you got the spicy brain, caffeine really helps you focus.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, if you are out there and you feel like Mrs. Arnold,
Go to the doctor.
Don't do that. Ignore her. She can't be trusted.
I do not have your best interest
I heard
at
her
heart.
muttering buzzwords to herself the other day.
Oh, yeah.
She's
Doge.
she's becoming some kind of cryptocurrency influencer.
Tesla.
She can't be trusted. If you feel like Mrs. Arnold, if you are routinely waking up and going, is everyone crazy but me? My recommendation is take a deep breath and figure out how this week or next week you can do something to make yourself feel like you are in community with someone in your physical presence, not just on your phone. Whether that is just like going to a coffee shop or something and maybe just tipping the out of a barista or just chatting with somebody. Have a conversation with someone in person.
Yeah. I will say the things when we all feel so disjointed and disconnected and like either we're going crazy or everyone else is. The things that help me are small grounding, just little daily activities. And then if you think about radiating that outwards into your community, it could be, there's a lot of, in Richmond specifically, there's a lot of community fridges. And maybe when you're like making some food, you make a little extra food and you go put in the community fridge.
Yeah.
You know? Or maybe you throw a few extra bucks to a mutual aid fund.
Absolutely.
You go take a walk with a friend through the park.
Yes.
You know? You give a person experiencing homelessness a few bucks, you know?
Have a conversation with another human being in person.
Yeah. But if you can't think of anything to say, just use this great thing. It's called ChatGPT. You don't even have to have a real conversation. It'll have it for you, and then you can go back to looking at your phone.
Get off my podcast.
Life hack.
All right.
Anyway,
That's enough of
do
that.
the other things that we said before I said that.
So yeah, I think we all just, our brains are braining. So that's this week's episode.
Sorry. Sorry, thank you. Sorry.
Lee,
Yes,
thanks for being here with me.
I'm sorry. Thank you for having me. I had fun. It was a great story.
Good, I'm
Okay.
glad. Thank all of you for being here with us this week. We will be back next week with more literature. I think we might do a little bit of science fiction, maybe.
Ooh, cool.
And other than that, just a reminder that we have merch.
Much.
If you would like this show to keep existing, please consider buying a hat or t-shirt or tote bag. You know, if you want to help us out, that would be great.
The merch looks really cool. I'm literally wearing the hat right now.
It's true. She
Yeah.
is. And it looks great on her.
Yeah.
And it would look great on you too.
Look even better on you.
Yeah.
And then we could match.
Oh,
And then maybe we could kiss
Okay.
in matching hats and sweatshirts.
What if we made out wearing matching Didn't Read It hats?
Okay.
Oh, all right.
Yay.
Well, now I have something to go do. And as always, if you can, this week, this month, this pay period, consider supporting a living author, especially in these trying times, because I know they feel crazy too.
Mm-hmm.
And they could really, really use the love.
Yes.
Bye. Didn't Read It was created, written, researched, and recorded by me, Grace Todd. Maddie Wood is our co-producer and social media maven. Editing by Tally, a true podcasting professional, and Grace Todd. Our theme song is Books 2.0, written, performed, and recorded by William Albritton. Our logo was designed and illustrated by the incredibly talented Jess Versus. Special thanks to Black Iris Social Club in Richmond, Virginia. Reach out to us with questions, concerns, or academic scrutiny at didntreaditpod@gmail.com.